Hey guys, this is Allison from AllyKatzkreations. How are you? I'm hanging in. I'm going to start a new book today. Corpus Hermeticum. The Divine Pyrmander. Again, another short. It's not short, but it's not long. So I should be able to get it through this month. I'm also weaving through the gray agenda to do more races and all fun stuff. I'm looking at different things. So that will be up with hopefully by tomorrow. But I wanted to get this started. Well, my teeth stay in for now. Before I start, please make sure you hit that like button. Please make sure you share because it's caring. You subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. That helps me out. That helps other people out getting the knowledge. And if you have ever gotten an epiphany, a dot, a new book to read, a mic drop, a mind-blown moment, please consider supporting my work. It really does help me actually eat, keep the lights on, and keeps me going. Otherwise, by the end of this month, I'm done. And I don't know when I'll be back. I can't pay my bills. I'm going to read the intro. It's always interesting to do that. The Corpus Hermeticum. Introduction. Like other writings within the Hermetic tradition, the Corpus Hermeticum is written in the form of a dialogue similar to the tradition of Plato's Republic or any of a number of similar and usual philosophical works. The effect which writings such as this have had upon the entirety of Western civilization is vast. The philosophy taken up and used by quasi-secular scribe and magi alike had a profound effect upon what by that time had become the political movement of Christianity, which eventually grew to encompass and inform even the most secular and mundane aspects of Western rulership and political dominion. Within this text are contained 17 shorter works, technically 18, for the profession of silence is sometimes held as its own separate work from the secret sermon. The material is exceedingly dense, and for ease of reading, the language has been modernized, and some archaic references, thee, thou, dost, and terms have been changed without changing the meaning of the text, which has already been translated multiple times into the English language, beginning in the era of the Renaissance into the period of Enlightenment. There are several basic concepts written about and spoken of by this rather mysterious figure of Hermes Trismegistus. I love my Hermes. Of Emerald Tablet fame, the foremost and most important concept within the corpus is that of good and evil itself, where it is treated upon the length and variously, for within some of the dialogues present, the premise of each section meanders slightly, digressing from topic to topic, while remaining generally centered around the central principle of each section. Within this text, then, good is likened unto that which does not change, and evil is that which changes. Evil is passion, but The penultimate good lacks passion for anything except for good itself. This and much more is revealed by the powerful spirit called Poemander, or variously Pymander, which instructs Trismegistus on this and other topics, the one singular and male reference. Deity spoken here as the ultimate Lord, the God of the Christians, as the maker is both separate from the making and yet at the same time said to be bound to it. This work may be seen as espousing an early variant of modern physical principles, namely the retention of matter. At the time it was written, the concept that substance was routinely destroyed was generally accepted, and for several centuries the mode of thought would remain intact here. However, Trismegistus briefly mentions that there is no destruction and merely change, or as he puts it, dissolution. This is an important concept and shows an intellectual capacity centuries ahead of its time, measured in secular terms, and more than 1,000 years ahead of religious scholarship. Here then, death is not seen as destruction, but merely the dissolution. We may call it entropy of the physical body, which is seen as liberating, even if the corruptibility itself, insofar as it is form of change, is considered to be evil. As most texts of its own nature, the corpus posits a relatively strict and sometimes difficult hierarchical system by which all existence is subject. Here, the world comes from God and man comes from the world. Man comes rather indirectly from the deity, but through the power of the mind is able to comprehend an image likeness of this being by noting the supposedly divine and natural systems, cycles, and synchronicity present in the world and the nature therein. A concept of motion and permanence is also of note within this work. To Trismegistus, if something has its own motion, its own willful volition, it must be immortal and have permanence and be of a higher level of divinity of sorts. This is opposed to the created things in existence, which are moved, and where they move at all independently, they do so as result of passions, which he notes are also a form of corruption and evil, and which are subject to change and eventually death or dissolution as generally terms. In what was likely seen as a vague heretical view at the time this work was made, Trismegistus insists that the singular God permeates all things, and that thus even mortal wicked men is utterly part of this same deity. I speak that too. A deity that holds all power, makes all existence, and is never bereft of motion, or as we may say, the presence of divine will and the action thereof deprived from it. The concept of existence permeated by a deity rather than governed by deeply anthropic, separated being living in the sky somewhere, was revolutionary among Western discourse at the time. Until the Age of Enlightenment, most depictions of the cosmic realm place the Christian Lord on a literal throne in the literal clouds, reigning over the world, with a sort of detached interest, while remaining more or less separate from the same creation he himself once intermingled with in the Old Testament. Here, though, this deity is not only deeply, but innately and inescapable involved with the process of creation. This is, of course, here opposed to the process of generation, which is seen as a slightly purgative and largely corrupt process by which mortal beings reproduce over time in accordance with change. Oddly, failing to reproduce is said here to be a sin worth a great deal of torment. Trismegistus states that the best way to honor this God is through silence and through this silent praise. We may regard this in numerous ways, although it is possible that is merely telling those reading the discourse to get out of God's way and allow his nature to work, because it is futile to resist it, or futile. Fate is, of course, regarded as real in Hermetic tradition, although it is a system of fate slightly more tempered than that of contemporary mainstream Christendom. In accordance with the going wisdom of the age, the physical form is here said to be crafted from a mixture of moisture and dryness and of the four elements, as well as sort of ethereal or divine essence, which is described in philosophical terms rather than physical ones. Certainly the corpus in its various ruminations on nature of uncultured brute beasts, as it remarks upon repeatedly, could have lent itself well to some of the colonial sentiments of the Renaissance. Indeed, applied to humanity, the Westerner might well have seen those tribes first encountered in the Americas or Africa or Java or elsewhere as merely being part of this same brutishness, which, Trismegistus states, operates singularly upon a principle roughly akin to instinct, rather than through the true volition of the true mind he speaks of. Thus, these lesser beings are under the dominion of man, as he states on several occasions, while man remains as a creation of the world and nature, subject to the same and afflicted with the same corruption that a beast is, namely mortality on physical level. The mind and soul of man through is mortal, immoral, immortal. I got it out. And man thus has access to both planes, the mortal and immortal, which causes both suffering and the allowance that he should subdue his passion and desires, despite his physical body, and become enlightened and ascending. We're going through the Kabbalion right now, and my goodness, I'm excited. I hope you are too. The first book, Hermes Trismegistus, his first book, literally. 1. Oh, my son, write this first book, both for humanity's sake and for piety towards God. 2. For there can be no religion more true or just than to know the things that are, and to acknowledge thanks for all things to him that made them, which thing I shall not cease continually to do. 2. Now we're on to 3. What then should a man do, O Father, to lead his life well, seeing there is nothing here true? I'm going to read that again for those in the back of the room who are still very sleepy to the paradigm happening right now. What then should a man do, O Father, to lead his life well, seeing there is nothing here true? For be pious and religious, O my son, for he that does so is the best and highest philosopher, and without philosophy, it is impossible ever to obtain to the height and exactness of piety and religion. 5. But he that shall learn and study the things that are, and how they are ordered and governed, and by whom and for what cause, or to what end, will acknowledge thanks to the workman, as to a good father, an excellent nurse, and a faithful steward. And he that gives thanks shall be pious or religious, and he that is religious shall know both where the truth is and what it is, and learning that he will be yet more and more religious. 6. For never, O my son, shall or can that soul, which while it is in the body, lightens and lifts up itself to know and comprehends that which is good and true, slide back to the contrary, for it is infinitely enamored by this, and forgets all evils. And when it hath learned and known its father and progenitor, it can no more apostatize or depart from that good. 7. And let this, O son, be the end of religion and piety, by which, when one arrives, you will both live well and die blessedly, while your soul is not ignorant whither it must return and fly back again. 8. For this only, O son, is the way to truth, which our progenitors traveled in, and by which, making their journey, they at length obtained to the good. It is variable way and plain, but hard and difficult for the soul to go in that is in the body. 9. For the first must it war against its own self, and after much strife and dissension, it must be overcome of the part, for the contention is of one against two, while it ascends, and they strive to hold and detain it. 10. But the victory of both is not like, for the one hastens to that which is good, but the other is a neighbor to the things that are evil, and that which is good desires to be set at liberty, but the things that are evil love bondage and slavery. 11. And if the two parts be overcome, they become quiet and are content to accept, if it as their ruler, be if the one be overcome of the two, it is by them led and carried to be punished by its being and continuance here. 12. This is, O son, the guide in the way that leads thither, for you must first forsake the body before your death, and get the victory in this contention and difficult life. And then, when you have overcome, return. 13. But now, O my son, I will by heads run through the things that are. Understand what I say and remember what you hear. 14. All things that are moved, only that which is not is immovable. 15. Everybody is able to be changed. Truth. 16. Not everybody is dissoluble. 17. Some bodies are able to be dissolved. 18. Every living being is not mortal. 19. Not every living thing is immortal. 20. That which may be dissolved is also corruptible. 21. That which abides always is unchangeable. 22. That which is unchangeable is eternal. 23. That which is always made is always corrupted. 24. That which is made but once is never corrupted, neither becomes any other thing. 25. Firstly, God. Secondly, the world. Thirdly, man. 26. The world for man, man for God. 27. Of the soul, that part which is sensible is mortal, but that part which is reasonable is immortal. 28. Every essence is immortal. 29. Every essence is unchangeable. 30. Everything that is paired. 31. None of the things that are paired still stand still. 32. Not all things are moved by a soul, but everything that is moved by a soul. 33. Everything that suffers is sensible, Everything that is sensible suffers. So guys, if you are following my Kabbalion look-see, my insights on that, here we are. A lot of this has everything to do with that book and connects all of those laws and principles. 34, everything that is sad rejoices also and is mortal living creature. 35, not everything that has joy is also sad, but is an eternal living thing. 36, not everybody is sick. Everybody that is sick is corruptible. 37, the mind is in God. 38, reasoning or disputing or discoursing in man. 39, reason is in the mind. 40, the mind is absent of suffering. 41, no thing in a body is true. 42, all that is incorporeal is void of lying. 43, everything that is made is corruptible. 44, nothing good is upon earth, nothing evil is in heaven. 45, God is good, man is evil. 46, good is voluntary or of its own accord. 47, evil is involuntary or against its will. 48, the gods choose good things as good things. 49, time is a divine thing. 50, law is humane. 51, malice is a nourishment of the world. 52, time is a corruption of man. That's for damn sure. 53, whatsoever is in heaven is unalterable. 54, all upon earth is alterable. 55, nothing in heaven is enslaved. Nothing upon earth is free. Isn't that the damn truth? Again, take what I say and put it and apply it into the time of now. That's how I'm reading these books. That's why it's so damn important that we read the old books in the time of now, because it's expressing everything going on right now. It's true. 56, nothing is unknown in heaven, nothing is known upon earth. 57, the things upon earth communicate not with those in heaven. Partial truth. 58, all things in heaven are beyond guilt. All things upon earth are subject to reprehension. 59, that which is immortal is not mortal. That which is mortal is not immortal. 60, that which is sown is not always begotten, but that which is begotten always is sown. 61, of a dissoluble body, there are two times, one for sowing to generation, one from generation to death. 62, of an everlasting body, the time is only from the generation. 63, corruptible bodies are increased and diminished. 64, corruptible matter is altered into contraries, to wit, corruption and generation, but eternal matter goes only into itself and its kind. 65, the generation of man is corruption. The corruption of man is the beginning of generation. 66, that which reproduces or begets another is itself an offspring or begotten by another. 67, of things that are, some are in bodies, some in their ideas. 68, whosoever things belong to operation or working are in a body. 69. That which is immortal partakes not of that which is mortal. 70. That which is mortal comes not into a body immortal, but that which is immortal comes into that which is mortal. Truth. So true. 71. Operations of workings are not carried upwards, but descend downwards. 72. Things upon earth do not advantage those in heaven, but all things in heaven do profit and advantage all things upon earth. 73. Heaven is capable and a fixed receptacle of everlasting bodies, the earth of corruptible bodies. 74. The earth is brutish, the heaven is reasonable or rational. 75. Those things that are in heaven are subject or placed under it, but the things on earth are placed upon it. 76. Heaven is the first element. 77. Providence is divine order. 78. Necessity is the minister or servant of providence. 79. Fortune is the carriage or effect of that which is without order, the idol of operation, a lying fantasy or opinion. Truth. 80. What is God? The immutable or unalterable good. 81. What is man? An unchangeable evil. 82. If you perfectly remember these heads, you cannot forget those things which is more words I have largely expounded unto you, for these are the contents or abridgment of them. 83. Avoid all conversation with the multitude or common people, for I would not have you subject to envy, much less to be ridiculous unto the multitude. 84. For the like always takes to itself that which is like, but the unlike never agrees with the unlike. Such discourses as these have very few auditors, and peradventure very few will have, but they have something peculiar. I can't get this word out, guys. I'm sorry. Project-wise. Peculiar. See, it's bad. Unto themselves. I have no teeth in my back. 85. They do rather sharpen and whet evil men to their maliciousness. Therefore, it behooves to avoid the multitude and take heed of them, as not understanding the virtue and power of things that are said. 86. What do you mean, O Father? 87. This, O Son, the whole nature and composition of those living things called men is very prone to maliciousness and is very familiar and, as it were, nourished with it, and therefore is delighted with it. Now this writ, if it shall come to learn or know that the world was once made and all things are done according to providence or necessity, destiny or fate, bearing rule over all, will not be much worse than himself, despising the whole because it was made. And if he may lay the cause of evil upon fate or destiny, he will never abstain from any evil work. 88. Wherefore we must look wary to such kind of people, that being in ignorance they may be less evil for the fear of that which is hidden and kept secret. I say true because I connect with that truth. You may not, but holy shit. Plug all those into our paradigm right now. Do I believe all men are evil? I believe that we have capabilities of having tendencies of having both polarities, that we do exhibit more sometimes evil than we do of our goodness. And what's exhibiting in the world right now is wicked, evil, destruction. And there are a bunch of us who are trying to expound and release the good, the light. And we're trying to push through. But at what point do we exhaust ourselves into more decay? So instead of doing the numbers, because I find that very annoying, I just noticed that and figured that one out. I'm just going to read it through. This is Poemander or Prymander, however you want to say it. And then I'm going to leave it off with the ending of this, because my sermon is nice and chunky. My thoughts being one seriously bust about things that are, and my understanding lifted up, all my bodily senses being exceedingly held back, as it is with them that are very tired, by reason either of fullness of meat or of exhaustion. I thought I saw one of an exceeding great stature and of an infinite greatness call me by my name and say to me, what do you wish to see and hear? Or what would you understand to learn and know? Then said I, who are you? I am, he said, Pymander, the mind of the great Lord, the most mighty and absolute emperor. I know what you wish, and I am always present with you. Then I said, I would learn the things that are and understand the nature of them and know God. How? Said he. I answered that I would gladly hear. Then said he, have me again in thy mind, and whatsoever you wish to learn, I will teach you. When he had said these things, he was changed in his idea or form, and straightway in the twinkling of an eye, all things were open unto me. And I saw an infinite sight, all things were becoming light, both sweet and exceeding pleasant. And I was wonderfully delighted in seeing it. But after a while, where there was a darkness made in part, coming down obliquely, fearful and hideous, which seemed to me to be changed into a certain moist nature, unspeakably troubled, which yielded a smoke as from fire, and from which proceeded a voice unutterable and very mournful, but inarticulate, inasmuch as it seemed to have come from the light. Then from the light a certain holy word joined itself unto nature, and then came the pure and unmixed fire from the moist nature upwards on high. It was exceedingly light and sharp and dynamic as well, and the air, which was also light, followed the spirit and mourned up to the fire, insomuch that it seemed to hang and depend upon it. And the earth and water stayed by themselves, so mingled together that the earth could not be seen from the water, but they were moved because of the spiritual word that was carried upon them. Then said Pymander to me, do you understand this vision and what it means? I shall know, said I. Then said he, I am the light, the mind, thy God, who am before that moist nature that appeared out of the darkness, and that bright and shining word from the mind is the Son of God. How is that? I asked. Thus he replied, understand it. That which in you sees and hears, the word of the Lord, and the mind, the Father God, differ not one from the other, and the union of these is life. I said, thank thee. He said, but first conceive well the light in your mind and know it. When he had said thus, for a long time we looked steadfastly one upon the other, insomuch that I trembled at his idea or form. But when he nodded to me, I beheld in my mind the light that is innumerable, and the truly indefinite ornament or world, and that the fire is comprehended or contained in by a great moist power and constrained to keep its place and form. These things I understood, seeing the word or Pymander. And when I was mightily amazed, he said again unto me, have you seen in your mind that archetypal form, which was before the indeterminate and infinite being, beginning. Sorry. This said Poemander to me, but how, I said, or from what substance are the elements of nature made? He said, of the will and counsel of God, which taking the word and beholding the beautiful world imminent, it and so made this world by the principles and vital seeds or soul-like productions of itself. For the mind being God, male and female, life and light, brought forth by his word, another mind or workman, which being God of the fire and the spirit fashioned and formed 7 other governors, which in their circles contain the tangible world, whose government or disposition is called fate or destiny. It straightway came forth or exalted itself from the downward elements of God, the word of God, into the clean and pure workmanship of nature, and was united to the workman mind, for it was consubstantial, and so the downward born elements of nature were left without reason, that they might be the only matter. But the workman mind, together with the word, containing the circles and spinning them about, turned around as a wheel his own workmanship, and suffered them to be turned from an indefinite being to an indeterminable end, for they always began where they end. And the circulation or running around of these, as the mind wills, out of the lower or downward born elements, brought forth unreasonable or brutish creatures, for they had no reason, the air flying things, and the water such as swim. And the earth and water were separated one from the other as the mind willed. And the earth brought forth from herself such living creatures as she had, 4-footed and creeping beasts, wild and tame. But the Father of all things, the mind being life and light, brought forth man like unto himself, whom he loved as his proper birth. For he was all beauteous, having the image of his Father. For indeed God was exceedingly enamored of his own form or shape, and delivered unto it all his own creations. But he, seeing and understanding the creation of the workman in the whole, would need as well also himself to fall to work, and so was separated from the Father, being in the sphere of generation or operation. Having all power, he considered the operations or workmanship of the 7, but they loved him, and everyone made him partaker of his own order. And he, learning diligently and understanding their essence and partaking their nature, resolved to pierce and break through the circumference of circles, and to understand the power of him that sits upon the fire. And having already all power of mortal things, of the living, and of the unreasonable creatures of the world, stooped down and peeped through the harmony, and breaking through the strength of the circles, so showed and made manifest the downward born nature, the fair and beautiful shape or form of God, which when he saw, having in itself the insatiable beauty in all the operations of 7 governors, and the form or shape of God, he smiled for love, as if he had seen the shape or likeness in the water, or the shadow upon the earth of the fairest human form, and seeing in the water a shape like unto himself. In himself he loved it, and would cohabit with it, and immediately upon the resolution ensued the operation, and brought forth the unreasonable image or shape. Nature, presently laying hold of what it so much loved, did wholly wrap herself about it, and they were mingled, for they loved one another. And from this cause, man above all things that live upon earth is double mortal, because of his body, and immortal because of the substantial man. For being immortal and having power of all things, he yet suffers mortal things, and such are also subject to fate and destiny. And therefore, being above all harmony, he is made and become a servant to harmony. He is a hermaphrodite, or male and female, and watchful. He is governed by and subjected to a father that is both male and female, and watchful. After these things I said, you are my mind, and I am love with reason. Then said Pyrmander, this is the mystery that to this day is hidden and kept secret. For nature, being mingled with man, brought forth a wonder most great. For he, having the nature of the harmony of the seven, from him who I told you, the fire and the spirit nature continued not, but forthwith brought forth 7 men, all hermaphrodites, and sublime or on high, according to the natures of the 7 governors. And after these things, O Pymander, I said, I am now come into a great desire and longing to hear. Do not digress or leave. But he said, keep silence, for I have not yet finished the first speech. I said, behold, I am silent. The generation, therefore, of these 7 was after this manner, the air being feminine, and the water desirous of copulation, took from the fire its ripeness, and from the ethereal spirit, and so nature produced bodies after the species in shape of men. And man was made of life and light, into soul and mind, of life the soul, of light the mind. And so all the members of the sensible world continued unto the period of the end, bearing rule and generating. Hear now the rest of that speech you must desire to hear. When the period was fulfilled, the bond of all things was loose and untied by the will of God. For all living creatures, being hermaphrodites, or male and female twain, were loosed and untied together with men. And so the males were apart by themselves, and the females likewise. And straightway God said to the holy word, increasing and multiplying in multitude all you my creatures and creations, and let him that is imbued with the mind know himself to be mortal, and that the cause of death is the love of the body, and let him learn all things that are. When he had thus said, Providence by fate of harmony made the mixtures and established the generations, and all things were multiplied according to their kind. And he that knew himself came at length to the possessed of every substantial good. But he that through the error of vanity loved the body continues wandering in darkness, sensible, suffering the things of death. I said, but why do they that are ignorant sin so much, that they should therefore be deprived of immortality? He replied, you seem not to have understood what you have heard. I said, I seemed so to you, but I both understand and remember them. He said, I am glad for your sake, if thou understood them. I replied, tell me, why are they worthy of death, that are in death? He replied, because there goes a sad and dismal darkness before its body, of which darkness is the moist nature, of which moist nature the body consists in the sensible world. From where death is derived, do you understand? I replied, but why? Or how does he that understands himself go or pass into God? He replied, that which the word of God said, say I, because the Father of all things consists of life and light, whereof man is made. I replied, you reply very well. He said, God and the Father is light and life, of which man is made. If therefore you learn and believe yourself to be of the life and light, you will again pass into life. Very interesting. I replied, but yet tell me more, O my mind, how I shall go into life. He replied, God says, let man imbued with a mind take heed, consider and know himself well. I asked, have not all men a mind? He said, take heed what you say, for I, the mind, come unto man that are holy and good, pure and merciful, and that live piously and religiously, and my presence is a help unto them. And forthwith they know all things, and lovingly they supplicate and propagate the Father, and blessing him, they give him thanks and sing hymns unto him, being ordered and directed by can't get that out, affection and natural love. And before they gave up their bodies to the death of them, they hate their senses, following and knowing their works and operations. Rather, I that am the mind itself will not suffer the operations or works which happen or belong to the body to be finished and brought to perfection in them. But being the porter or doorkeeper, I will shut up the entrances of evil and cut off the thoughtful desires of filthy works. But to the foolish and evil, wicked and envious and covetous and murderous and profane, I am far off, giving place to the revenging demon, which applying unto him the sharpness of fire, torment such a man's senses, and arm him the more to all wickedness, that he may obtain the greater punishment. And such a man never ceases, having unfulfilled desires and unsatisfied concupiscence. I totally didn't get that out right, but I can't project that, so sorry guys. And always fighting in darkness, for the demon always afflicts and torments him continually, and increases the fire upon him and more. I ask, you have, O mind, most exceedingly taught me all things, as I desired. But tell me, moreover, after the return is made, what then? He replied, first of all, in the resolution of the material body, the body itself is given up to alteration, and the form which it had becomes invisible, and the idle manners are permitted and left to the demon, and the senses of the body return into their origins, being parts and again made up into operations. In anger and concupiscence go into the brutish or unreasonable nature, and the rest strive upward by harmony. And to the first zone, it gives the power to had of increasing and diminishing. To the second, the machinations or plotting of evils, and one in effectual deceit or craft. To the third, the idle deceit of capacity. You guys know what I'm talking about. Can't get it out. I already had this with the last book I read, like maybe an hour and a half ago. I'm just, for those of you who don't know, I cannot project certain words properly, pronouncing them properly, because I have a lot of issues with my teeth. I have no back teeth, and from here back pulls down. So I can't get it out without having my teeth fly out of my face. Then I look like a meth head. Trying not to have that happen. So just be mindful. And I'm also dyslexic on top of that. So things do go banana nuts in my eyesight. So just be mindful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or trying to sound stupid, because then why would I put myself on video? Right? It's about the knowledge. To the fourth, the desire of rule and insatiable ambition. To the fifth, profane pride and the headlong rashness of confidence. To the sixth, evil and ineffectual gluttony. To the seventh zone, subtle falsehood, always lying in wait. And then being made naked of all the operations of harmony, It comes to the eighth nature, having its proper power, and sings praises to the Father with the things that are, and all they that are present rejoice and congratulate the coming of it, and being made like to them with whom it converses, it hears also the powers that are above the eighth nature singing praise to God in a certain voice that is strange to them. And then in order they return unto the Father, and themselves deliver themselves to the powers, and becoming powers, they are part of God. This is the good and to them that know to be desired. Furthermore, why do you say what rests? But that understanding all men, thou become a guide and leader to them that are worthy, that the kind of humanity or mankind may be saved by God. When Pyrmander had thus said this to me, he was mingled among the powers. But I, giving thanks and blessing the Father of all things, rose up, being enabled by him, and taught the nature of the whole, having seen the greatest seed in sight or spectacle. And I began to preach unto men the beauty and fairness of piety and knowledge. O people, men born and made of earth, which have given yourselves over to drunkenness and sleep, and to the ignorance of God, be sober and cease your souffret, by which you are allured and visited by brutish and unreasonable sleep. And they that heard me come willingly and will one accord. And then I said further, why, O men of the offspring of earth, why have you delivered yourselves over unto death, having power to partake of immortality? Repent and change your minds. You that have together walked in error and have been darkened in ignorance, depart from that dark light, be partakers of immortality, and forsake corruption. And some of them that heard me, mocking and scorning, went away and delivered themselves up to the way of death. But others, casting themselves down before my feet, besought me that they might be taught. But I, causing them to rise up again, became a guide of mankind, teaching them the reasons how and by what means they should be saved. And I sowed in them the words of wisdom and nourished them with ambrosia of immortality. And when it was evening and brightness of the same began wholly to go down, I commanded them to go down. I commanded them to give thanks to God. And when they had finished their thanksgiving, everyone returned to his own lodging. But I wrote in myself the bounty and benevolence of Poemander, and being filled with what I most desire, I was exceedingly glad. For the sleep of the body was the sober watchfulness of the mind, and the shutting of my eyes the true sight, and my silence great with the child, and full of good, and the pronouncing of my words the blossoms and fruits of good things. And this it came to pass, which I received from my mind, that is Poemander, the Lord of the word, whereby I became inspired by God with the truth, for which cause with my soul and whole strength I gave praise and blessing unto God the Father. Holy is God, the Father of all things. Holy is God, whose will is performed and accomplished by his own powers. Holy is God that determines to be known and is known by his own. Holy art thou that by your word has established all things. Holy art thou, of whom all nature is the image. Holy art thou, whom nature did not form. Holy art thou that art stronger than all power. Holy art thou, the stronger than all excellency. Holy art thou, that art better than all praise. Accept these reasonable sacrifices from a pure soul and a heart that's stretched out to you. O unspeakable, unutterable, to be praised with silence. I beseech you that I may never err from the knowledge of you. Lord, look mercifully upon me and enable me, and enlighten with this grace those that are in ignorance, the brothers of my kind, but your sons. Therefore I believe in you, and I bear witness, and go into the light, life and light. Blessed art thou, O Father, thy man would be sanctified with you, as you have given him all power. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. Amazing. And again, I want you to frame everything that has been spoken about with the Kybalion and all of this. This is a lot, but it really does parallel each other, and it has a lot of insights. What are we going through right now? We have a whole part of the world that is living in a sleep state that follows and watches others who dictate whatever they feel is appropriate to say. And a lot of them are falsehoods, and they're leading people astray. Good people, by the way. A lot of these works hold a lot of truth. A lot of these works are from souls that have seen so many lifetimes. And we're now just first remembering our own lifetimes. Many of us lived during these times. Many of us are starting to remember these words that are emanating out of my mouth, but you're remembering them. They already heard them before, or variations thereof. What does that tell you? We are the ones that end this now. We can't do that as a team, as a humanity, if everybody's in their egotistical, stuck selves. Like, what am I going to do about gas? Well, guess what? I haven't been able to put gas in my car in a long time. I get around, and I don't drive. And I've sacrificed enough in my life. So stop with the ego. We're all suffering in totality until we all stand up together and do something about it. And it's starting to happen slowly. More and more people are getting sick and tired of just working to put gas in their car and not being able to have food and any kind of security or paying the bills for their families. At what point does everybody upraise and put an end to it? And that's only when humanity starts to come together. There's a lot of us already that are awake. And there's a lot of us who already know a lot of this knowledge, but there's a lot of people who do not. And that's why I'm reading a lot of these books, because we're remembering these things on many different planes of existence and soul levels. We're remembering, or trying to at least. And we need to come and forge together forward so that we can move on to a better plane of existence for everybody to be abundant, for everybody to be able to pursue what their God-given talents are, not what you go down the block and stand behind a cash register, and that might be somebody's God-given gift. There's no judgment there. But I find it really hard to believe what's going on in the world today, and people are still blindly going with the fold, scared out of their wits, judging others out of ignorance and not knowing the truth. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed Corpus Hermeticum. Again, dictates to me when I read and what I read. So This was next up on the list as I'm trying to do more, let's say, pictures and try to change up my alien agenda fun. Sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your weekend. Please be safe, be seen. Again, if you can help me and support my work, that'd be very appreciated. I understand if you can't, we're all in that spot. Hit the like button, it's free. And until next time, have a wonderful day wherever you are. Lunch, brunch, dinner, breakfast, day, evening, night, afternoon, early dawn. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.